to the executive branch. This unit is going to focus on the president, the vice president, the cabinet, and other members of the bureaucracy. And this video is going to focus on learning target 1, which is the main responsibilities of each branch, focusing on the executive branch. So let's get started. The presidency, requirements for office. We're going to look at 2 different types of requirements. They are known as formal and informal requirements. The formal requirements are those that are listed in the Constitution. And there are 3 formal requirements. The first one is you got to be at least 35. You have to have been a resident in the United States for 14 years. And you have to be a natural born citizen. So those are the things that, according to the Constitution, you have to have in order to be president. There are other informal requirements that we just kind of expect our presidents to have, especially in our modern time. So I want you to think a little bit about that and then list a couple of informal requirements that you think presidents should have to meet. Term of office. We know that presidents serve 4-year terms. So you can be president and you can serve 4 years and then you can go home. Or you can be elected. Again, you can be reelected as long as you don't exceed or go beyond that 10-year limit. Okay. And that 10-year limit was put in place by the 22nd Amendment. And this tells us that presidents can serve 2 terms or no more than a total of 10 years in office. And one other thing I want you to know about the 22nd Amendment is that it's called the FDR Amendment or the Roosevelt Amendment because FDR is the only president to serve more than the allowed time by that amendment. So then you're like, why can FDR serve so long? Well, this wasn't an amendment when he was in office. Elections. We're going to look at 2 different types of elections. The first type is a primary election. And this is what happens before we actually vote for the president and vice president. This is when the parties narrow down the choices that they have to have one candidate for president, okay? You can't have a whole bunch of Democratic candidates or a whole bunch of Republican candidates running for president in the general election because then the votes are going to be all split and that party can't get a majority. So the purpose of those is to narrow down the field, narrow down the options for who's going to be president. And then next we have the general election. And the general election is what you typically think of as a presidential election. This happens in November every 4 years, and we have a really specific date for these general elections. The general presidential elections happen every 4 years, but we also have other elections that happen in November every 2 years. So on this specific calendar, assuming that the calendar starts with Sunday, the election day on this calendar would be November 3rd because it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. But if November started on a Tuesday, so if the first was really here, then election day couldn't happen until the following week. All right, and our current president, of course, is Joe Biden. Here he is right here. As president, Joe Biden makes $400,000 a year. He also gets an expense account. And whenever he leaves office, he gets a pension or he gets a retirement, which at this time is equal to the amount of a cabinet member, which is like $220,000 a year. And he gets that for the rest of his life. And the presidential line of succession, we're actually going to look at this in class, but this is a list of people that, according to federal law, that if something would happen to the president, then the people in this line of succession are next in line to become president. So the first few positions that you need to know about are, of course, the vice president, then it goes Speaker of the House, then the president pro tempore of the Senate, and then we get into the Secretary of State and all of those cabinet officials. And with that, I'm going to stop for this video. If you have any questions, let me know.